It's taking me to a place I really wanna go. When we held each other down and the love was strong. Sometimes we make turns.
Thank you everybody for coming to the 5th annual Black History Month Leadership Brunch. Thank you everybody for coming on time and being here. It's an honor to have you all here. This is, like I said, this is our 5th one. This is an event. Oh yeah, go ahead and clap it up. There we go. You gotta let it breathe for the clap.
I do want to say assalamu alaikum to our brothers from the nation that's here. Ramadan Mubarak, my brothers. Thank you for joining us at the brunch, knowing that there was going to be delicious food with delicious aroma floating through the air, but you still showed up to support, and that doesn't go unnoticed and is greatly appreciated. I would like to start and pay respects by offering Al-Fatiha, which is our prayer in Islam. I seek refuge in Allah from the accursed shaitan, the rejected devil. All praises be to Allah, the Lord of all the worlds and the master of the day of judgment. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Melahi yawmiddin. You alone we call on, and you alone we ask for help. Iyaki na'budu wa iyaki nasta'in. Idina sirata mustaqim. So guide us to the straight path, the path of those who have earned your favor. Amen. Each time I come up here, I'm going to give you a leadership law. There's going to be 5 total. For the adults, please use your phone, or maybe if you have another way to take notes, that would be good. But as Javion said when he first came up here, we want to give you some takeaways so that each year we show up to the leadership brunch and it adds to our leadership abilities. So we're not just coming here to fellowship, but we're also coming here to learn and then apply what we've learned back in the community. So the first law of leadership that I'll start with is the law of respect. People naturally follow leaders stronger than themselves. Competence, integrity, and confidence attract respect. Leaders earn respect through action, discipline, and decision making. Respect grows when leaders model the behavior they expect from others. Very important. Respect is observed before it is given. So we're always leading by example. Before we say anything, we've already said a lot. So I won't hold us up any longer. I'm going to bring up our first guest speaker, who I've done lots of work in this community with. I started mentoring 10 years ago. And this brother joined with me. We joined together, actually, because he was already doing his thing. And I said, you know what? We need to be doing it together. Because it's one thing to jump out there and start your own initiative, but it's another to find out who's already doing what you would like to do and join forces with them. That's leadership. So about 8 years ago, we started mentoring the young men in the community, and we've affected hundreds of families in a positive way. That cannot be denied. So we went from Fight for Life, from the Sons, and now what we call the RBG Youth Leaders. So I'm proud to welcome my brother and the servant of the community, Brother Anthony.
Peace and blessings. That's what my brother would say, peace and blessings. But if y'all know me, what's up? That's my slogan. What's up? How y'all doing? Y'all good? All right. I'm filled with gratitude to be here, not just to be alive to see another day, but like you said, we started about 10 years ago, and that's when I got involved in the black community. It was about 10 years ago, and as time is going on, I'm getting older, gray starting to come out of my hair. I still have that same powerful feeling I did when I started this journey. I still feel good inside when I'm amongst my people in a room talking about empowerment. And I'm grateful that I still have that feeling. I still have that fire inside of me to contribute in my black community. So I'm just grateful to have that feeling still, and I feel like it's never gonna go away. So give yourself a round of applause for being here. We got our young men. We're gonna kick things off. We're gonna set the tone a little bit. We're gonna bring it up. I need all my young men to stand up. We're gonna set the tone. Y'all ready? Stand up, young men. Y'all ready for the mantra? Are y'all ready? Yeah. We love and respect ourselves. We love and respect ourselves. We walk with integrity, dignity, and confidence. We are productive and always willing to learn. We are productive and always willing to learn. We are gentlemen towards our women. We are gentlemen towards our women. They must be protected, respected, and treated with care. They must be protected, respected, and treated with care. Young man, what kind of man will you be when you grow up? Powerful men. They say powerful men adding value towards our family and our community. Thank y'all, fellas. Have a seat. So I've done a lot in this community, and one of my favorite things I've done so far was get involved with the young men. Children's books, trips, spoken word poetry, all kind of different cool little things going on in the city over the years. It's been nice, but I think my pride and joy has been working with young black men, because talking to them is kind of like talking to my younger self. So with my time, I kind of want to use my time here to talk to my younger self, which is these young black men on the side here. So I want to just kind of tell you guys how precious of a time you guys are in right now, which is your youth. Now, when you look at this house, when you think about this big house and building, think about the biggest, prettiest house you've ever seen. The most special part about that house is not the shiny doorknobs, it's not the paint on the walls, it's not the windows, it's the foundation and it's the structure. It's a part of the building that was not being seen in building mode, right? And that's what the building is standing on top of, which was the foundation. And you guys are in your youth, and I want you to look at your youth as your foundation for your future to stand on. Just like a house is sitting on the foundation, you guys' future is going to be sitting on your foundation, which is your youth, and that is a lot of decisions that you're going to be making as a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 18-year-old, your behaviors, your habits that you pick up, the relationships that you build, all of those are going to be going into your foundation. So think about that, how you operate. When you're 16 years old, you might make a decision that your 39-year-old self is going to be impacted by. I'm 39. How I operated when I was in high school, in college, is still playing a part of who I am today, because that was my foundation. I made decisions that kind of stuck with me from when I was building my foundation. What did I be? I became a father. I got involved in this, got involved in that. Not all bad stuff, it could be good stuff too. But just think about the decisions that you make today as a 15-year-old, the things that you take interest in. Say you pick up a new hobby, new interest. Your 40-year-old self is going to be dealing with that possibly. And not just that, you got your future wife, your future children. One of my daughters is here right here. She is impacted off the decisions I made when I was 23. Ain't that something? I wasn't thinking about that as a 23-year-old, but these are the things I want you to think about when you, on a day-to-day basis, how you operate. Your future self is going to be dealing with everything that all the decisions you're making right now. That could be a good thing, and that could be a bad thing. A bad example is some of us go down the path as teenagers, we make these relationships with the wrong people, we do crazy stuff, mess around and get a record, something crazy, and then, next thing you know, you're 29 years old and you can't do this, you can't do that, all because of something you did while you was building your foundation. So when you look at these houses, these big, beautiful houses, sometimes the paint is very shiny, it's nice. The doorknobs is nice, the interior is amazing, but a lot of people don't know the foundation is weak, very weak. It has brittle wood on the bottom. The concrete is coming apart. You know, I'm a blue collar brother, so I think I'm thinking about the structure. So right now, you guys are in the mindset right now of your foundation. It's what your future is going to be sitting on top of. Your future self is going to be sitting on top of what you're doing right now. And then you want to talk about the structure. That's going to be your guys' character, your moral, your values. So think about all of these situations as you get older. I know right now you want to say, you know, I'm only 9 years old, I'm only 10. You know, my 39-year-old self is not going to be dealing with, you know, but you know what? It is. It really is. Because you're going to meet somebody special in the next 5 years. You already been meeting great people all the time. Meeting Bilal, meeting Crondo, meeting Javion. These are things that are very important to your foundation. You guys are meeting some valuable people. So that's going to have you create a very strong foundation. The more powerful things you guys do for yourselves and for your future, the more you learn, the stronger the foundation. And guess what? With a strong foundation, a wide foundation, you can have a big old house. That's your future. That's your shiny paint, that's your shiny doorknob, that's all that good stuff. So I'm proud to say I made some good decisions when I was making my foundation, later on in my foundation, because a lot of it didn't click till later on. So I'm proud to say I'm going on 40 years old, and I made some decisions in my early 20s that are actually benefiting me in a positive way. Because I almost did some other stuff when I was building my foundation. And if I did all other stuff, I wouldn't be here right now talking to y'all today. I didn't think that, man, I'm 16, I'm 17, or I'm 19, I'm gonna go with the homies and I'm gonna go do this and that. I would not be standing here today. My foundation right now would be weak. I'll be falling apart. I'll be brittle, you know. But thankfully, I got surrounded by some good people in my community 10, 12 years ago, and they helped me build my foundation. And today, I'm proud to say I can sit here and talk to you guys and talk to my younger self, and hopefully inspire you guys to do the same. And that's just what I wanted to talk about today. Is that all right with y'all? I want to talk about, I know I got a lot of adults. You know what? Even as adults, because I'm talking like I'm an old man, so I'm going to say this too, because even as an elder will look at me as a 39-year-old, and he'll tell me, you know, at 39, you're going to be making decisions that your 70-year-old self is going to be dealing with. You know, so let me talk to my adults, my brothers my age, how we are diet right now. I'm always thinking about, man, am I going to be 50-something, you know, struggling with my health and diabetes and whatnot? So it don't mean that just because you're a grown man it ends. It's always going to keep going. I'm 39. I've never been in my 40s. I've never been in my 50s. So I know that how I behave today, all my habits that I pick up today are going to be affecting who I am in the future. So it does not stop. You know, it might not be my foundation for my adulthood, that's over with, but I can still add on to the structure, right? So how I move today, how I operate today is going to affect who I am at 65 years old. How am I going to be walking? It might be affected by what I do today. I keep on riding bulls and horses and doing all kind of crazy stuff. It's going to impact how I ride, how I walk when I'm 60, right? So just think about that. Anytime, any decision that y'all making today is going to affect and have an impact on who you are in the future. And who you are in the future might not even agree with what you're doing right now. I'm 39. I sure wasn't agreeing with what I was going to do. So I'm glad I didn't do it. All right, y'all, that's my time. I appreciate y'all.
That was amazing. Thank you. Y'all give it up for Brother Anthony. Young men, I truly hope that you were paying attention and listening, because what he just said to you is very important. When I was in your age, all of your ages, I didn't have someone double that, triple that, come back to give me the tools or the information that I needed to be successful. And that's exactly what he just did right there. I always tell children, not just young men, but children in general, if you have parents that love you, the best thing that you can do is listen to them. Because too many times we think we have it all figured out, and our parents are giving us all of the tools that we need, but we don't listen to them. For some strange reason, we don't listen to the people that love us, but we go to school and we'll listen to our friends, we'll listen to other associates, and they don't have the same love for us as our family does. So keep that in mind. The best thing you can do is listen to your parents that love you and respect you. So I mentioned previously the law of respect. The second one I'm going to go over is the law of priorities. Because leaders understand that activity does not equal productivity. So sometimes we get caught up in the journey, right? And we're so focused on doing this and doing that, but we never establish the priorities that it's going to take for us to move forward. Effective leaders focus on what produces lasting impact. Priorities shape culture and direction. So if you're part of a team or organization, remember that. What are our priorities? Because that's going to take us to where we need to go. And the amount of time that we have allotted ourselves to get there, when we don't focus on the priorities, that puts us behind schedule. Learning to say no protects the mission and the purpose. I told myself at the beginning of this year, I said, this year, I'm going to say no more. I'm going to focus on my mission and my purpose and say yes to those more. Because a lot of times people will call us, they'll reach out to us, and they'll say, hey, can you do this or that for us? And we have a loving heart, a lot of us do. So we'll say yes most of the time. But what that does is, that takes you away from your priorities. So keep that in mind. Those are two laws. The law of respect, the law of priorities. Leadership is deciding what deserves your energy. Your energy. I'm going to bring up our next guest speaker, who I've only had the opportunity to meet one time, but it was a pleasant introduction. Great energy, great spirit. So without even knowing her, I knew it was a perfect fit after listening to my team. So I want to bring up our sister and servant of the community, Larissa. Peace and blessings.
My name is Larissa Collins. I'm very nervous right now. Public speaking is a fear of mine that I've been trying to conquer. So God be with me, and I pray that He use me as His vessel in this moment. And I pray that whatever I say impacts at least one person in this room. So I want to first of all thank you guys for being here. Thank you for allowing me to use my voice. Thank you for this opportunity. So I like to call myself a steward of God, but I'm a creative. I'm an artist. I have a clothing brand called For Noir. I think today's so special to me because I've had my brand for 2 years now, and two important components of my brand is Black history and leadership. I never considered myself a leader until about last year because I had this false notion of what a leader was, and then being in a position where I've had to lead a team has taught me what a leader truly is. I think today I'll just talk about like two of the most important things. I think first, the most important thing of being a leader is being a student. Not just a student in terms of your education, but being willing to learn, always being willing to learn. I think when I first started my business, I was overwhelmed by the amount of stuff that I didn't know what it took to become a founder, become a CEO, become a boss, become a designer, all of those things. And so I realized there was a lot of things that I didn't know. But I think why God continues to use me is because I'm not afraid of what I don't know. I actually embrace the things that I don't know. And I always welcome a challenge. I always welcome discomfort. I always welcome failing. I think if I could give myself a piece of advice starting, and anyone here, is just like, not just being a leader, but in anything that you do, don't be afraid to fail. The greatest things that I've learned have come through my biggest failures. I think being a leader, when you talked about people are gonna respect you because they want to know that you are someone who practices what you preach. I think my team trusts me so much because I'm never scared to tell them what I don't know. I'm never scared to tell them what I did wrong. And I'm always willing to learn with them, not only teaching them, but learning from them. When I started For Noir, I didn't know what exactly I wanted my fashion brand to be, but I know I wanted it to be in service to Black women. And I realized in order to be in service to anyone, you have to know their needs, you have to know what they want. And it's easy for you to understand that from your own perspective, but I was like, in order to really serve Black women, I need to know the history of Black women. And so before I launched my brand in 2024, when I decided in 2020 that this is what I was going to do, I spent 2 years researching our history. I did go to college, I didn't finish, but I went to ASU and I went to fashion design, and I also went from women and gender studies. And I realized I learned so much about like what it means to have, like to be a designer, what it is to sew, but I knew nothing about having a business and creating a brand. And so much about creating a brand is your target audience. And my target audience was Black women, so I took 2 years to just research our history, starting from pre-slavery all the way up until what our history is today. And actually created the name of my brand, which is For Noir. I grew up in Alabama, I'm a country girl. And when I learned a lot about the civil rights movement, there was this bombing that happened in 1963 in Birmingham, Alabama, and these 4 little girls were murdered. And I learned about it when I was like really younger, growing up in Alabama. We went to the Civil Rights Museum, but growing up and learning about it, I never knew their names. I never really knew the significance of it. And then once I did more research, I realized that their murder was the biggest reason that Martin Luther King even went to Alabama, and his civil rights career started in Alabama, as we know that's so much of what he's known for. And it made me realize just how much of Black women's history is erased, how much of our existence is erased, so much of our identities, our stories are erased from history. And to know that like that movement, like that their murders were such a significant part of the civil rights movement, yet we don't even know their names, was insane to me. And so I said that not only do I want my brand to serve Black women, I want my brand to make Black women's existence known. I want them to feel seen, and I want them to feel heard in the work that I do. And so my name, For Noir, noir means Black in French, and then the number 4 is a symbol for those 4 little girls. So that when I tell people the name of my brand, I can tell their story, and to me that's like continuing to keep their identities alive, having people know who they are. Thank you. And so like I said, remaining a student, because had I not researched my history, so much of what my brand is wouldn't exist. And so I wish, one thing that I love about children is that they're always curious. Children are always, what they don't know, they want to know more of. And I think like being a leader, that's an attribute that I had to go back to, my curiosity, my childlike sense of wonder and curiosity, and just being open to continuously learning what I don't know. And then just ending, like I said, talking about failure. Like I said, I'm just now becoming more of a confident person, doing things that are outside of my comfort zone. And I said it's because I feel like God knows that I'm an open vessel. I'm always asking him to use me in ways that stretch me, use me in ways that make me rely on him more. And I know that's why I've grown so much as a leader, and that's why I can sit here today and say that I know myself as a leader. It's because God continues to use me, because I continue to make myself comfortable. And like I said, just always be willing to fail. Be willing to fail. The human experience is failure. Everything that we've done well in this world has come from someone trying, not getting it right the first time, trying again, not getting it right the second time, trying again. So I just tell kids, like, whatever you want to do, just like don't stop, because because it doesn't work out the first few times, or if it doesn't work out, because I've always learned that like a failure is only a failure if you don't try, and like anything that hasn't worked out will lead you to what's for you and what you're meant to do in this world. Right now I'm kind of at like a crossroads with my brand. I don't know if I want to continue into fashion. I feel like God's calling me into something so much bigger than that, but I'm going to just keep going and keep trying until he shows me. And I also will say, like, if it doesn't make sense to anyone else, it doesn't matter as long as it makes sense to you. And I think a leader is someone who is strong in their convictions, someone that knows their purpose, someone who knows that they have a purpose in this world, and they just don't stop. So I just want to thank you guys so much. And
That was amazing. Y'all give it up for Sister Larissa again. As I mentioned, I haven't had the opportunity to really speak with her or get any information, but I give thanks that she spoke so boldly and empowering when it comes to black women. It says, I think Crondo said this in one of his bars. He said the essence of a man is a true black woman. So thank you for that. We appreciate that. All right, let's see here. Okay, so we have the law of respect. We have the law of priorities. And this next one is the law of influence. So number 3 is the law of influence. And this is a perfect segue for me as well, because I'm kind of moving too fast. There's a couple of things I wanted to touch on, but I do want to give honor and respect to the Nation of Islam, which I started with, specifically student minister Halim and my brother Tremikas as well. Representing the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, they've done a great job. I always know that I can count on them to be an example of how we're supposed to carry ourselves throughout this community. When it comes to the law of influence, leadership is simply just influence, right? Nothing more, nothing less. Leadership is not defined by the title or the position, so to speak, but it's defined by the ability to inspire action. That's what the Nation of Islam does for me. I can sit back, I can take notes, I know that it's quality information, but I'm also watching their actions, and that inspires me to do more and to do better. Because I'm adding to what's already been started. Influence is earned through consistency, trust, and examples. Again, that's what the Nation of Islam has done for myself and a lot of others. Great leaders develop other leaders, and they're not dependent on a leader also. This next brother has influenced me a great deal. He's actually one of my business partners and brothers, but he's somebody that I can learn from. This brother here he can hold a conversation with anyone about anything. That's something I strive for. I get excited when I hear this brother talk. I'm like, man, that's a sharp brother right there. I'm glad to know him. I'm glad to be able to do work with him, meaningful work. As a matter of fact, for those who do not know, myself, along with 6 other brothers, a few years ago, we went up to northern Arizona, northeast Arizona, and we purchased 37 acres of land to continue this mission. And I know that comes with a round of applause, and it's greatly appreciated, but it's definitely not needed because we're still doing the work. We do need the support in other ways. Even just showing up here today supports us as well. So be on the lookout for other ways that you're able to support us also. I'm trying to do my best give you as much about the brother as I can without probably intruding on some of the things that he's gonna say. So I'll stop here, and I want you all to welcome my brother with great energy and great passion, Brother Kylon.
Bro, I brought notes this time. Last time they brought me out to speak, I spoke too much. But first and foremost, I want to thank the highest power for everything that is, everything that will be. Also, I want to share a pleasant surprise with y'all that I experienced walking into this building today. Brother Basim Muhammad, he's not in the building at this moment. I think he had to leave. But that brother was my elementary school teacher. And I can't tell you the last time I saw him. So I love full circle moments like that. It was a pleasure to see him. My face lit up, his face lit up, and we just hugged. We just hugged it out. So I bring that up, especially for the young men in the building, because I know at times when you feel like you're just a fly on the wall, I really want you to cherish these opportunities when you're in a space with the full spectrum of your people, meaning your peers, your parents, and the elders. A lot of this stuff is probably going to resonate later. And trust me, you're going to want to wish that you could pull back and just feel that for a second, you know? Regardless if it's like a family reunion or church. I remember sitting in the back of the church trying not to fall asleep, but overhearing and getting, you know, you get remnants of the information that you're supposed to get. And believe it or not, school can do that for you as well. So this particular event, this is a great event, and I don't know if this was intentional, but considering that this is the conclusion of Black History Month, and not that we limit ourselves to this month, but history is a great reminder of everything that we have endured. It also enables us to reflect in our current state and also the path ahead. To expound on Brother Anthony's point earlier, there's no finish line to any of this, but like a relay race, we want to ensure that there's a baton to pass, and we want to ensure that there's capable hands to receive that baton to keep this thing going. So in preparation for this occasion, I was just kind of thinking about leadership, obviously, but also community. What does leadership in the community look like? And what came to mind for me is how dynamic we are as a people, how complicated we can be as a people. So as we all know, our relatives are inherited. Community, I think we can all agree, is built in purpose. So that's an intentional thing. Through commitment, we can elevate community into enhanced family. And I think that's the desired state. So I say this often, but the best thing we can do to honor our ancestors is continue their work. Best thing we can do for ourselves is obviously take care of ourselves, take care of our health, be good stewards of our house, and persevere. Best thing we can do for the next generation is prepare them with the tools to move forward, to keep our flame burning. So, prerequisites that are required for a community to function. Consistency over time, a willingness to sacrifice convenience, that's a tricky one. And then accountability without hostility. Now, sometimes hostility is required, but I think accountability can be a triggering word for a lot of us. And when accountability shows up, it don't always feel good, it don't always taste good, but it's something that we gotta have intact. It's like medicine, it don't taste good, but we gotta have that. So our current landscape, there's a lot going on. In just 4 short years, it'll be 2030. 2030. That sounds crazy. So as I look around amongst our people and just sort of assess some of the issues, assess some of the opportunities, especially particular to the Phoenix landscape. A lot of people note that, how fragmented we are. That presents challenges, strains on our families due to that fragmentation, and also a leakage of our talent. And that's something where the burden is really on us to restore the proper incentives and also the proper consequences to ensure that we keep our talent tethered to us so that we can reinvest in our communities. We talk about sellouts a lot. That's a rabbit hole, but I bring that up because it reinforces the point I just made about incentives and consequences. What does it mean to vacate? What do you lose? Do you lose anything? What's the consequence? I think these are considerations that we need to start making tangible mechanisms to ensure that, like I said, we can keep our talent and be intentional about how we invest moving forward. For historical context, during the slavery period, families were separated. So we talk about fragmentation of our units, our families across this landscape here, but imagine if your intimate family was scattered about. Whoever you were on that plantation with became your family. So I bring that up to emphasize the importance of communal accountability. And I think there's a lesson in that we can really grab on to try to implement in today's time to bridge some of these gaps, but also open up a lot of these opportunities. After emancipation, there were many efforts for collective aid programs and cooperatives, and that was done out of necessity because of the landscape at the time. And I admire a lot of what was going on. What's so great about our history is, I'm learning things on a daily basis, not only nationally, but even things in Phoenix, things that I've driven by countless times, things right up under your nose. And you're like, wow, that happened here? So I say that to say, we gotta be very intentional about being stewards of our history as well and ensuring that lands into proper hands to keep that going. In modern times, our African and our Caribbean brothers, they come over and they build economic might out of necessity, but also out of habit. They have different challenges, but it requires something from each individual amongst that collective. Entry requires contribution. Success, it triggers a responsibility to pull other people forward. And family is defined by reliability, not necessarily blood relation. So I emphasize that point to really stress the fact that if you're in this room right now, I consider you family. I can't say enough about OBFC and what they mean to the community. And not only to thank them, the brothers at the forefront, but also the families of OBFC, because it takes a considerable amount of sacrifice to accommodate that sort of effort. And I know it's not always easy. So, if you're familiar, upon induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I believe, Andre 3000 has a great quote, and he's talking about how great things come out of little rooms, if y'all familiar with that. It happened recently, within the past year, I believe. That's a great quote, and to expound on that concept, within those small rooms, it's usually just a couple of people. Might be one person. I mention that to emphasize that we all have that divine entity within us, right? The burden is on us to take those necessary steps to connect the dots. Impact is often exponential when we do that. So regardless if it's one person, two people, in that small room, the potential, the sky's the limit. So for the young brothers in the room, remain optimistic about your ideas, even if they're not embraced at scale. As I reflect on my childhood, I remember things that I was into, and you lose some of that over time, you know, because at a point, some of that stuff isn't cool no more. So you kind of shed that off of you. But really, that's an unfortunate occurrence where your innocence is kind of stripped away at times, but also, if imagination is a flame, it feels like there's an array of mechanisms around to sort of put that fire out. So I want to encourage you to stay rooted in your imagination. Any and everything is possible if you believe in yourself first and foremost. In closing, as I mentioned some of those historical footnotes, we built families out of community as a necessity. Survival demanded it. We must now enhance our families and our communities because our progress demands that out of us. Modern success, it really follows the same old formula. Intentional community plus disciplined commitment, that equals collective advancement. And I think that's what we're all shooting for. The question is not really whether the model works, the question is whether we're disciplined enough to commit to that. And do we really want it? It's a great privilege to be here, to see familiar faces, to see new faces, and also hear some of the narratives that have been expressed. It's a great privilege, and I look forward to this event continuing. I want to thank y'all again. Thank you for having me, thinking enough of me to have me on this platform. That's my time. Thank y'all.
That's a good brother right there. That's a good brother. Clap it up for, give it up for Kylon again. Come on, y'all. Yeah. And I just recently learned I'm older than you, right?
Yes, sir.
That's crazy, because I was thinking this whole time, I'm like, man, when I grow up, I want to be like Kylon. Nah, that's my brother right there, for real. Okay. So I have another law, and then I'm going to bring up our next guest speaker. So, who remembers law number 1? Law number 2? Law number 3? All right, and law number 4 is going to be the law of the lid. The lid. Yes, LID, meaning leadership capacity sets the ceiling on the success. So your capacity to be a leader determines how high you will go. Growth in leadership directly increases opportunities and outcomes. So if you're asking, how do I raise the lid then? You raise the lid through personal development, reading, obviously learning, reflecting, and as my brother mentioned, accountability. These are all tools that we can use to help raise our lid. Leadership ability determines a person's level of effectiveness. This next guest speaker, and for those who don't know, this is my cousin, my blood cousin, as a matter of fact. I'm glad to say that. I'm happy to say it. I say it with, and when I say it, I feel strong and empowered. Like I feel something when I get to say that. That's how powerful she is. Has done amazing things in this community. As a matter of fact, just the other night she was responsible for creating and designing the uniforms for the Valley Sons organization. So if you haven't had the opportunity to see them, they are fire. The uniforms, but as a matter of fact, the Phoenix Suns need to adapt those uniforms. All right, I know I gave it up a little bit, but I want y'all to give a warm welcome and round of applause to my cousin, the next guest speaker, Antoinette Cauley.
Can I step up?
Yep, yes, ma'am.
Is this a microphone? So I don't need, do I still need this?
That's good. This is.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
I don't really like podiums. I like to move around, but I'm a little limited. So, hello everyone. My name is Antoinette Cauley. I'm very happy to be here. I want to thank my cousin, Brother for having me. I also want to thank our Black Fathers community. I think this organization is very important, and I'm so happy that our community has them. So leadership, we're talking about leadership today. I felt like the best thing for me to do was simply be to share a little bit of my story and how I came to step into my leadership, because that was never really my intention when I was young. So again, my name is Antoinette Cauley. I've been a full-time artist in Phoenix for 10 years. I'm actually an international artist. I've shown Thank you. I have lived and shown work in Germany. My family comes from South Phoenix, and so I take our stories abroad and share them with other countries and cultures. So growing up, I didn't really have an idea of what I wanted to become, but I had love. I had a love of art. And life was a little bit chaotic when I was a kid. I experienced a lot of grief. The first, I think, kind of large impact that I had in my life that would impact me forever, really, was when I lost my Aunt Julianne to breast cancer. I was very close with her. I spent every summer with her. And when I was 9 years old, I was told she had 10 days to a month to live. My mother said we would go say goodbye in the morning, but she passed away before I woke up. So I never got to say goodbye. And I didn't get a chance to grieve, because 6 months later, my mother got diagnosed with breast cancer. So at 9 years old, I told myself, I cannot be a kid anymore. I gotta grow up. Because if I don't grow up, I can't help my mom. And if I can't help my mom, I might lose her too. So that kind of marked the day I felt like I lost my childhood. But I had this love of art. I love to draw. So I threw myself into that, and it became a medicine. It became an escape from a very, very tough life. Because my mother was sick, we couldn't afford to pay our rent, so we got evicted a lot. We moved a lot. Oftentimes we didn't have food. Oftentimes I couldn't get new clothes for school. But I always had my sketch pad. I always had my Crayolas. I always had my pencil. And it saved me. So when I became a teenager, I really started to question God. I'm not one to question God, but at that time I was like, God, it is so hard. Like, life is so hard. What is the purpose? And I have this little voice. I call it my internal compass. It guides me. And this voice, you can call it God, you can call it compass, whatever you want. This voice told me, 50 years from today, people are going to look at your journey and find themselves in it. They're going to find inspiration. Inspiration to be great, to do things they didn't think that they could do. I heard that I had a purpose that was bigger than myself. And that if I quit, if I didn't continue with my art, I would be doing a disservice to people I was meant to inspire. I was 15 years old when I had that thought. So I kept going. As I progressed, I hang out a lot at the Boys and Girls Club, and I was very fortunate to be surrounded by Black men who worked at the Boys and Girls Club, who did a lot for me artistically. They taught me a lot about business. They gave me a lot of game. And I remember telling myself, man, they've done so much for me. Like, I have to give this back. It didn't feel like something I just wanted to do. It felt like an obligation. And so I moved forward with that intention. And when I went to college, I was able to develop my artistic skills. I like to draw, I like to paint. I had a little bit of an ego because I got really good, really young. I was like, man, they're not teaching me nothing in college. I'm good. No, they taught me a lot. They humbled me very quickly. But I was able to develop my skills so much that eventually I got to show in art galleries. And when I was showing in art galleries, I was painting portraits of young black girls. And I had painted this portrait. I was experimenting. I was trying to find my artistic voice. I spent a lot of time with myself through the years, learning myself, and it was starting to spill out to art. And I wanted to create a conversation about pop music, rap, hip hop, and how it influences our youth and our culture. So I started painting pictures where I replaced rappers, images of rappers like Kendrick Lamar, Migos. I was replacing them with young black girls. And I wanted people to have a conversation about our youth and how they're impacted by music. But what I didn't know is that when I hung these paintings in these galleries of these young girls who were in very powerful positions that they're normally not in, that I was going to empower them. Not only empower them, but I was going to inspire more people than I ever could have dreamed of, to be honest. There's this really great quote by Nipsey Hussle, who's probably the greatest influence on my career personally. He said the highest human act is to inspire. I've heard this quote many, many times, but I didn't really understand what he was saying until I got to the thick of my career, probably a few years ago. So once I realized that I had this opportunity to empower these young black girls, I decided to move with more intention. I realized that my artwork, though it was for black people as a whole, though I was looking to inspire and empower black girls, black women, everyone was drawn to my work. Every color, every background, every gender, everyone was coming to my shows. And I realized that I had this influence, and I had to decide what I was going to do with it. So, one day I was talking to a representative from my gallery, and I was complaining. I was like, there's just like not black artists out here. Like, we need representation. Who's going to represent us? They said, we want to help. How can we help, Antoinette? And I kind of paused, and I was like, I don't know. And they gave me this look, and they were like, well, sounds like you need to be the representation that you're looking for. And I realized they were right. And I think that was the moment that I stepped into this leadership role. That God had been preparing me for my whole life without me knowing. So I moved intentionally, and as my career grew and more opportunities came, I started to think about inspiring. My number one goal in life is to inspire people in some way, shape, or form. Sometimes it's through talking, sometimes through work, sometimes through workshops. So every decision that I make, I think about who's watching me. And I think that's something important to always keep in mind. My legacy will not be in children or anything like that. I don't have children of my own. That's not a desire of mine. But my legacy will lie in the hearts of the people who I've inspired in my community. And so things like when I moved to Germany, I did it with intention. I knew that people were watching me from my community. I knew that they didn't know they could leave. And sure enough, people followed. When I got opportunities, I work a lot with the Phoenix Suns and the Phoenix Mercury. I have partnerships with the Phoenix Mercury. I do a lot of mural work. I have a mural on the arena right now. I've painted basketball courts for the Mercury. I've done a lot. When I have opportunities come up with them, I literally bring the community in. We do initiatives together. I mentor youth with the Phoenix Mercury's resources. Currently, I'm working on a mural for the NCAA Final Four tournament for women. And I decided I was going to paint 4 black high school girl basketball players from our community. Instead of pro athletes, who they don't need more time, who's in our community that I can highlight. So, every decision that we make as leaders should be with the thought, how can I inspire someone? Who's watching me? What example can I set? Is it moving somewhere and talking about it? Is it being vulnerable about a struggle you're going through? Is it creating programs? I think, what Bilal had mentioned earlier that I wanted to touch on, I think in closing, there's a lot of different ways to lead. There's a lot of different types of leaders, right? Like sometimes there's a leader in the household, in your community, in your friend group, of a sports team. There's a lot of different types of leaders. I consider myself the type to lead through inspiration, empowerment, and by example. But I think that in all forms, really good leadership, it doesn't control, it doesn't force, it doesn't demand. It inspires, just like you mentioned earlier. It inspires people to take action. So, through your actions, through moving in the community, make sure you're creating that energy that's so potent that it pushes people to be better and do better for all of us. Thank you.
One more time, give it up for Antoinette Cauley. All right, perfect. So, I have the last law, and then I'm gonna bring up 3 people simultaneously, or back to back. So the last law is the law of the inner circle. A leader's potential is determined by those closest to them. Strong leadership requires a strong support system. Effective leaders surround themselves with people who complement their strengths. But also honest counsel and accountability strengthens the leadership vision. Now, there are several other laws to leadership. I decided to pick 5 that I feel we could all take the information and go right back into the community and apply it, or apply it in our lives. Because, as Antoinette mentioned, we're always in a leadership position, especially in our families, especially as men. We have to know that we're not just leaders in the community, we're also leaders in our homes. But the tools that we use to strengthen ourselves, they transfer over to both. So whether you're strong as a leader in the family, you should be strong as a leader in your community as well, and vice versa. Also, as Brother Kylon mentioned, this is somewhat of the last, today is the actual last day of Black History Month. And a lot of people don't even quite understand how we got to this point in regards to Black History Month. And our RBG youth leaders, we touched on it just a little bit, and to my surprise, actually, a lot of the young men did already know how Black History Month came to be. But there's several adults that I know that don't have a clue about it. But that's not intentional. Because we know that we live in a society that's built on miseducation, so the more they can keep us confused or keep us away from the truth, the better position they have, the better stance they have on our necks and our backs. But the more that we educate ourselves and become intentional about the things that we want and have, that's when we get our power back. So I'm going to bring up Brother Nakia to touch on Black History Month just a tad bit really quick here. Brother Nakia is going to bring up our RBG Youth Leader Spotlight, and then from there we'll have our last guest speaker. I won't tell y'all who that is yet though. Brother Nakia.
Peace and blessings, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for being here. This is a momentous event and the opportunity for us to close out the month, such a special month at that. I wanted to highlight just some of the historical significance of, one, this month, but more importantly, the year. So we've talked about this in our program. We have what we call a 5-minute fact that we do every single week. And one of the people that we've highlighted recently is Carter G. Woodson, Carter Godwin Woodson. So if you wouldn't mind, give a quick round of applause for Carter Godwin Woodson. It is because of him that we celebrate this thing now called Black History Month. Started off as Negro History Week. as coined or dubbed by Carter G. Woodson. 1926. So what does that make this year? 100 years of celebrating our people. 100 years of celebrating our people. And here's the vision. A lot of people don't know the background of what the vision was for Carter G. Woodson. He was an educator. He studied abroad. He came back and he studied specifically our relationship and our contributions to the community. And his goal was to celebrate the achievements of our people in this month. What started off as a week has now spread to a month. But his vision and his mission was that we would get to the point where we celebrate an entire year of achievements of our people. So what better time than right now to celebrate the achievements? If you look around, you are the achievement. The ancestors that paved the way before you is what led us to this particular point and moment in time. So I wanted to drop that quick little fact just to remind us of what our purpose is here. It's to celebrate the achievements. That was the vision and the idea of Carter G. Woodson, the one who started this thing we call Black History Month. Thank you. So one way that we can celebrate that and celebrate the achievements is by focusing and pouring into our youth. This is why you see the young men that we have that are around with us. And that being said, I wanted to bring up one of our youth leaders to be able to speak to us today. Tavion, I wanted to bring you up to come speak to us today. Good? Yeah.
Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings.
So, my name is Tavion M. Smith. My dad is Thurston M. Smith. We're holding the phone in the blue suit. I am a part of the RBG Youth Program. I am currently enjoying the RBG Youth Program because it talks about African Americans. Most of the people, or some of the people that we discuss is, as Brother Nakia stated, Carter G. Woodson, Burkina Faso, and George Washington. And Carter G. Woodson, I'll talk about Carter G. Woodson, why I like it. So Carter G. Woodson established Black History Month, but when he started out, it was known as Negro History Week, which he also stated. But to coincide with Frederick Douglass's birthday, he made it the month of February, not because it is the children's month. I believe that it is very beneficial for the youth to be in a rites of passage program, such as the one I am currently in, so they can learn about other civil rights leaders that they don't teach us about in school. Happy Black History Month.
Yeah. Give it up for Brother Nakia and Brother Tavion. Yeah, see, and that wasn't intentional right there. That was the love and support that they have for each other. That makes me very happy. Good job, young man. I like the way y'all supported Tavion right there. I want to go back to that last law that we were talking about, the law of the inner circle. So this next guest speaker has been part of my inner circle through several different stages of my growth and development. And it's been a pleasure to have somebody who's somewhat the opposite, but we balance each other out. So when I'm angry, Crondo's smiling. When Crondo's angry, I'm happy. You know what I mean? So we're able to balance each other out, and that's very important because who you have around you determines on how far you're going and where you're going. I've said that a few times today, and that's very important. I want the young men to really hear that, because as you grow and you gain friends, especially when you get into high school, you're you're gonna want to hang around those people who are succeeding. Find the winners in your school, find the winners in your community, and get around them. That's how you make sure you stay a winner. So to close this Black History Month, this 5th annual Black History Month Leadership Brunch, I want to bring up my blood cousin and family, but business partner as well, Brother Crondo.
Peace and blessings, man. I just want to say we different. I strive to be like you as well, man. All of my brothers, iron sharpens iron, and you are who you hang out with. You know, so you are who you be around. So I just want to thank, OBFC, thank the parents, thank the youth. You guys inspire us, and the parents for trusting your youth with us, the nation, all of the speakers, everybody, bosses, man. And I just want to go ahead and just, pay homage and start with that. So my speech is before the hashtags, a Black History Month address. So being that this is the last day of Black History Month, I wanted to talk about Black history, leadership, leaders, Sankofa, looking back, going forward, and hindsight vision in the present, if that makes sense. So before the hashtags, before Afrocentric studies were even allowed in universities, before Black history was treated as global history, there were men who refused to let our history be erased. It wasn't trends, it wasn't moments, it wasn't any type of social media movements, men, warrior scholars of memories. And their names deserve to be spoken. Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Chancellor Williams, Dr. Ben, Yosef Ben, Dr. John G. Jackson, Dr. Amos Wilson. So they weren't entertainers. They weren't on DJ Vlad talking about it, none of that. They weren't safe, and they weren't asking for permission. They were scholars, warrior scholars, armed with truth, and they aimed it directly at centuries of distortion. So Dr. Amos Wilson, the psychology of survival, he asked a question that still makes hella people feel uncomfortable to this day. He flat out said, if you're studying the connection between crime and race, why are you studying black folks? We're not the pillagers, we're not the colonizers, we aren't the architects of global exploitation. It's global. He also reminded us of something even deeper. To destroy a people, you must first destroy their love for one another. To destroy a people, you gotta first destroy their love for one another. That's real heavy to me. Because we talk unity, you know what I'm saying? We post about it, we hashtag it, but we don't always practice it. And going forward, the way the climate and things are, I think it's time for a shift. So if you feel that, man, let me get our shake. Our shake. All right, Dr. John Henry Clark. History isn't neutral. He taught us something foundational. He said, a people's relationship to their history determines a relationship to their future. It wasn't about the dates, it was about direction. It was about power. It was about identity. He told us you can't move forward while accepting the past written by those who benefited from your oppression. I don't got nothing to learn from you. Know your history or somebody else will define it by lies. P gang, being black and beautiful sounds good. Being black and bold sounds even better. Black excellence, Sounds amazing. But let's try something else. Let's try being black and self-sufficient.
Yes.
You feel me? Let's try being black and powerful without depending on any outside help. Let's try building real communities, not just no social media groups. We got enough of those. Let's normalize collaboration over competition. Because if everybody does a little, nobody got to do a lot. Dr. Chancellor Williams, responsibility, not despair. Dr. Chancellor Williams took the challenge even further. In the destruction of black civilization, he exposed how our societies were weakened, not just by outside conquest, but by internal division. It was about responsibility. He reminded us that our people are not historical victims. We're builders of civilization, whose story was deliberately fractured. And if something gets fractured, it can get repaired. But that repair requires accountability. It requires discipline. It requires renewal. One more of my favorite, Dr. Yusuf. Dr. Ben spent his life dismantling the myth of African inferiority in the classrooms, lecture halls, on the street corners. He traced world civilization back to the Nile Valley. You want to talk about philosophy? You can't talk about science, philosophy, religion without acknowledging Africa. He didn't just teach facts, he restored confidence, and confidence changes behavior. Dr. John Jackson, clarity over comfort. He was relentless. With precision, he challenged Eurocentric, religious, and historical narratives. He exposed how our contributions were stripped away, renamed, and reassigned. Because the truth doesn't need comfort, it needs courage. So, together these warrior scholars did more than rewrite history. They recentered us. They rearmed black minds. They reclaimed stolen memory. Long before decolonized was popular. Long before woke got distorted, commercialized, turned into a slur. You know, they were already doing the work. Ignored, attacked, but never silenced. So the legacy just don't live in books. It lives every time someone asks better questions. Every time a student rejects a watered down narrative. Every time black history is understood as world history. So the charge to us, what do we do with this? We find like minds. We build super teams. Shout out to OBFC and the Growth Spot. We plan to work and work to plan. We mobilize. We can rally all day long. We need to mobilize. We learn when to speak. We learn when to shut up. We focus, we listen, because the work is bigger than the month. It's bigger than the post, and it's bigger than the moment. So they taught us the truth, and because of that truth, because of the work they did when it wasn't popular, the remembrance can never be erased. My favorite song is Soul to Soul, Keep On Moving. Your time will come. Ashe? Peace, peace, peace.
Yeah. That was amazing.
Before we close it out, I do want to give Student Minister Halim an opportunity to say a few words if you choose to. I know you weren't expecting it, but you all show me so much love when I walk into your doors. I have to do my best to return it back. So please share a few words with us.
Magnificent and merciful, the revealer of all truths and the sender of all prophets. We thank him for his goodness and his kindness to the human family. We thank him for Moses and the Torah. We thank him for Jesus and the gospel, for the Injil. We thank him for Muhammad and the Quran. Peace be upon all these worthy servants of Almighty God. But I wouldn't know the relevance of the Torah, of the gospel, or the Quran were not the two men who have made a profound impact on my life and the lives of countless others throughout the globe. One, I've never met personally, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but I have been known the second one for decades now. And this is the Honorable Mr. Farrakhan. In the name I greet you, the people of God, with the greeting words of peace. We say this in our original tongue, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, sir.
And for those who don't know what that means, just means peace be unto you. I'm not going to speak long, only about an hour and a half. And I want to thank Brother Bilal for allowing me to say a few words. I'm very honored just to be here, be present. Of course, I had no idea you would ask me. But I think it's fair to say that when you see men who are attempting to raise young boys to be men, that is an effort that has to be applauded. That is an effort that has to be celebrated and appreciated. Well, I've been to several of my brother's engagements, and I've been so impressed by their tenacity, by their persistence. And that persistence and that tenacity, it is motivated by a deep, unabiding love. You know, as a people, we have a tendency to be our own worst enemies. How we sabotage our own potential growth and development. In the Bible, it says like this: there's one Lord, one faith, and one baptism. We are one people. And there has to be an appreciation that just because everyone is not a part of the same organization, it is folly for us to allow our own insecurities, our own self-hatred, our own self-loathing to become a barrier between us. We're one family. And we don't need to have any white man or white person to come, because sometimes we are the most effective barriers for our own liberation and our own salvation. The truth of the matter is, we allow our divisions to become real concerns for us. West Coast against East Coast, left against right, male against female, light skin against dark skin, those who have degrees and those who don't have degrees, those who are Muslims against those who are Christian. And we perpetuate this madness that allows us to stay in this kind of condition. My last point, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I love us. I'm not going to be someone who is going to be in the Democratic Party and to be the modern equivalent of a Ghislaine Maxwell, someone who is trying to groom us to be the victims of some predator. That's not what I'm here for. But what I'm here for, what gets me, what I will give my life for, is to see us united. What I give my life for is to see us as a people on the same platform. It doesn't mean we all have that group thing, but what it does mean that we see the value in one another. So Jesus said like this, he said, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And I don't know about you, but every time, I want to echo what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said. He said, every time I see a black man and a black woman, I'm looking at God. I'm looking at divine. I'm looking at people who are the descendants of God himself. That's what I believe. And so as a consequence, I will fight and I will die for us. Not for us to be in madness, for us to be united. And so what I see what my brothers have done here, I'm honored just to be present. I'm honored. And whatever I can do and we can do to enhance this, it is an honor, it's a privilege. You know, I come from New York State. Was born in New York City, I was raised in Buffalo. And you have no idea. This is February 28th. I'm not having to shovel snow. I don't have to worry about waking up early to warm a car up. This is heaven for me. Heaven to be here and heaven to be with you. So may God continue to guide you, to bless you, and to strengthen And I greet you with the greeting words that I came to you with. Assalamu alaikum.
All right. I think we're here now. I think we're finally reached the closing point. And I don't want to say goodbye though. I just feel like we're having so much love being shown here today. I want to give our guest speakers a round of applause again one more time. Let's also do it individually as well. Give a round of applause for Brother Kylon. Give a round of applause for Sister Antoinette. A round of applause for Sister Larissa. Round of applause for Brother Anthony. And a round of applause for Brother Crondo. And last but not least, give a round of applause for yourself. Peace and Black Power. Thank you.
Got to protect our love so we can weather through the storm, through the ups and the downs.